Okay, so welcome everybody. I hope everybody can hear us. Thanks for joining us today. I know a lot of you are joining from far afield, so thank you very much. We have probably the record attendance we've ever had for a webinar, so that's down to Brian. I'm Julian. I'm the Managing Director of the CX Academy. I'm no longer sporting my Robinson Crusoe look. I had a shave today, so things are looking good. Just to say, you may hear a few strange things today in the webinar, a few dogs barking, a few canaries, and a few teenagers screaming in the background, but that's all me, and I can't do anything about it. We may have a few technical glitches, hopefully not. We've never actually done this setup before, so just bear with us if you can, it'd be great. So Brian Horgan is with us, and during this masterclass, Brian's going to give a little advice and some words of wisdom on how to handle the anxious customer or teammate. And I suppose really in a way that keeps your mental health safe and provides them with some kind of support. We all understand that under these very, very strange circumstances that anxiety is a more present thing. For those dealing with customers either by phone or online, we see this more and more as each day passes. We can all sometimes feel a little out of control. It's a little like kind of feeling one day we're kind of anchored really nicely in our little harbor and everything is going great in life, and then the next day the anchor is ripped up and we're all at sea, drifting way offshore in a very strange sea indeed. We all feel the same. Nobody needs to feel alone here. We also want you to know that the world that we emerge into when this nightmare ends may be a very different place. And this is where we believe that customer experience is vital. It's about emotional interactions, and there will be nothing more important as we get back to some kind of normality. So we need to prepare ourselves now if we can. This is going to be a practical webinar. It'll cover best practices from recent academic research and Brian's own experience working in high stakes environments, including the medical sector. Brian has over 25 years experience working and leading customer teams across a range of sectors, banking, digital, and the arts. Previous roles of Brian's include regional manager for customer service in Ulster Bank, the development director of the Abbey Theatre, as well as his own consultancy practice, and clients include Dublin Airport, the RDS, Business in the Community, Sims IVF Clinic, and the Department Agency Web Development. He holds an MSc from the IMI, Irish Management Institute, specializing in the customer and staff experience. We are the CX Academy. We run online certified and university accredited courses in CX, and we run them online globally. If you have any questions, just please think of any questions you might have, fire them in, and we'll get to them at the end. I'll chirp in occasionally if I can add anything, but really now, as they say in the Abbey Theatre, Brian, very welcome, and the stage is yours.
Thanks very much, Julian. Thank you for that lovely introduction. I wasn't sure it was actually me. The first thing I want to begin and say is thank you for joining the webinar. Thank you for giving the headspace, because where you put your energy is important at the moment. So thanks for spending the time with us, for choosing to spend your time with us. And really, it's to say at the moment, with everything that's going on that Julian so eloquently put and said, no one is an expert. No one is a guru. No one has any more knowledge than you do at the moment. You are your own guru, and it's up to you what you select to use, what you don't use. I looked at quotes around being your own guru, and there was one I particularly liked by Osho. He's an Indian thought leader, and he says, one thing you have to do is to walk and create the way by your walking. It is not so cheap. You will not find a ready-made path. It is not so cheap to reach the ultimate realization of truth that you will have to create the path by walking yourself. The path is not ready-made, lying there waiting for you. It is just like the sky. The birds fly, but they don't leave any footprints. You cannot follow them. There are no footprints left behind. So we all have to find our own way in this. And Christopher Pike, the author, says a true teacher would never tell you what to do, but he would give you the knowledge with which you could decide what would be best for you to do. So the context of this webinar is, and that is just to give you some information that may or may not be useful for you. Make a decision how you use it, what you use, We are all the masters of our own destiny now more than ever. So we'll begin it. This webinar is for anybody in a sales or service team who are looking after customers, be that on the phone, online, or some people are still face-to-face. We have people on this call that are in the food retail sector, in banking, and in the medical sector. And on behalf of everybody listening, we thank you for what you're doing for us on a daily basis. So there's still that face-to-face contact happening for some. It's split into three parts. One is looking after yourself, supporting your team, and then supporting your customers. So yourself, your team, your customers. Let's look at you first, you as an individual listening to this. And the first thing we have to do is actually a check-in with ourselves, because what is happening first needs to be accepted. We can't run from this. The quicker we accept the reality of it, the quicker we know how we can be and become in this environment. And the things we need to accept is that this is a trauma. There's a trauma in ourselves and others, and I'll talk about this a little bit more. Our behaviors and productivity will not be as consistent as they were. So as a result, we need to be kinder to ourselves with immediate effect. As a predominantly Catholic nation, that is not the easiest thing for us to do. There is a wonderful workbook around self-compassion and self-compassion tools, which Julian, I will send to you the link to that. Actually, we can send that out when we send out the recordings as well. But putting some work into self-compassion will be of use in the long term. And also the models for teamwork and how teams work and the models for the customer journeys now need to change to adapt the fact that we're in a new reality. So let's talk about trauma. The Oxford Dictionary defines it as a deeply distressing or disturbing experience. And I don't think there's anybody listening to this who would feel that we haven't gone through a disturbing experience at the very least. And it also is defined as a pain in the body. And when you look at what happens with trauma, there is a national, the US have a Center for Excellence in UCLA, which has been studying trauma for the last 30 years. So they look at the individual symptoms that people undergoing trauma experience and the common trends between them. And they are things like physical aches, physical pains, physical headaches, sleeplessness, thinking too much about the event, blocking it out completely. And the ones that are specific to customer journeys, user journeys, teamwork are spikes and increases in fear and anxiety, sadness or irritability, trouble managing behavior or emotions, trouble paying attention, we become more scrambled eggs. And the one that's coming through a lot from feedback when I talk to my clients, this came through from AIB actually, strong emotions, including at what seemed like the wrong emotion at the wrong time. So one of my clients was telling me, a colleague of theirs, everybody has their own mug in their kitchen, and their mug was taken, which would usually be maybe a 1 out of 10 reaction. They went to 8, which is that strong emotion at the wrong thing at the wrong time. And let's talk about that just a little bit more, because it is likely to come up more when you're dealing with customers. So to look after yourself, you need to look out for what may happen. So effectively, it's displaced emotion. And psychology today defines displaced emotion as an emotion, one that is unconsciously directed from the original object to a safer, more acceptable one. It is a defense mechanism to protect us from feelings or thoughts that are too painful or difficult for our conscious mind to deal with. It's too large, so we break it down and divert it into safer things. So it could be the partner who thinks maybe their partner is slightly lazy and takes it out on their children going, you've got to work harder, you've got to work harder, kids. Or a brother who's anxious about their exams who gives out to his sister for eating his food, whatever it is. So it's a redirection, and the real object of the emotion is something the person is unable to focus on, and so releases it towards a safer object. And it's just to know when you're dealing with customers and teammates at the moment to look after yourself that these mini explosions may happen on a more regular basis at the beginning of this anyway, while we're in the trauma state. It's not personal, but just be prepared for it. And it may also happen with yourself, and you may go, what the hell am I giving out about this mug for? Just be kind, know it's a natural outcome, and just be aware of it and build it into your practices with your teams that may come in, build it in with your customer journeys as well. passing through this trauma, so we move on to the shock, into integration of it, into reliving, being totally present again, being our best selves again. So the required attitude within it is acceptance is the first part. It's a bit like grief. Ultimately, it is about accepting it and going, okay, this is where we're at. This is the good in it. This is the things we need to work on. This is the challenges within it, just accepting it. It is about patience and communicating in a different, more patient way. Listening and listening skills are really going to have to ratchet up. I'm not a particularly patient person, and I'm learning that I have to ramp up my patience skills quite quickly. Kindness is a part of the leadership tools now as well. Leadership success at the moment will be your team, your peers, your colleagues going, that guy got it. He understood where he was, or that my boss, he or she got it. They knew where I was at. They helped me in it. They got me through it. And reorientation. So at the previous webinar with Julian, I mentioned Simon Sinek, and Simon focuses on looking at your why. What is your why for doing your job, your role? What is your why in life? If you have identified what your why is, you need to now revisit that in the context of this pandemic and go, is it still the case? Does this why still apply for me? Or do I need to come up with a new way of looking at what my life is about and what the meaning of my work and my life is?
Brian, a quick one, if I
Sure.
might get in there. Like, should we look forward to the end of this kind of sort of nightmare scene, or should we really try and live day to day, or is it a balance? What do you think?
It's both. I think that, like in anything, it's to be as present as you can, because then you can make better decisions. If you're really in the moment, you can hear the answer. So it is to be present in this. Don't foreshadow it like some people do with their retirement. When I'm 60, I'm going to travel and do X, Y, and Z. So don't delay any decisions that you can do now. Do them now. And obviously, it's about hope now. And it's about keeping hope alive by going, I had a hopeful day today. Today I did X, Y, and Z, and that was good. So you're building up the stamina. So I think in this phase, it's short-term thinking, it's contingency planning, and then it's hope for the future. A vaccine will be found. That's
Brilliant.
The reality of it. Yeah.
Thank you.
But don't delay the good times now. There are still good times in today, in this moment. Some things that may help. So some of these you will know. It's just a library of research proven, evidential stuff that calms, that relaxes, that grounds you, that keeps you in yourself, that keeps you growing. The first is journaling, which I am a huge fan of myself. So positive psychology has done huge research. It's a fantastic on their website, actually, huge research into the benefits of journaling in relation to anxiety, stress management, clarity of thought, strategic thinking. The benefits of it are innumerable. The main one, though, is that it allows us, writing our thoughts, feelings, and actions in a journal allows us to craft and maintain ourself and solidifies our sense of identity. So what it really does is it provides a buffer between the trauma outside of us, the pandemic, and what's going on within us. So it provides a safe buffer zone for us to really hear what's going on in us, rather than us being overwhelmed by what's happening externally. There is a great series of books by Julie Cameron called The Artist Way, and she talks about doing morning pages. And find your own way of doing this, or not at all, whatever works for you. She recommends 3 pages of A4, which is a lot. But even if you can write down a couple of thoughts, what it does is it just gets all the junk out of your head. It gets all the noise out of your head. You don't critique your writing, you just write. You didn't even lift the pen off the paper sometimes. You just write till you've got it out of your system, and it just brings a quietness and a stillness back to yourself, so you can go on with your day. The next and all the rest of these blocks are really around scheduling, and you'll do this in your own style. For me, I like using the Google Calendar or the Yahoo Calendar or Microsoft Calendar, whichever one you're working on, and I block out my hours of my day in different things. Because what I do is I block out, I've reduced it down now because I know my own productivity has been affected, and I do a block around make lunch for the family. You know, that's a block now because it takes a little bit more energy than it used. So celebrate daily steps by marking them, manage expectations with them, as well as scheduling. Build in rest and just be times. The kids are at home or you're on your own, whatever your scenario is, you need to just lie down. Trauma affects your energy. Lie down on the bed and do nothing for 10 or 15 minutes. If you can, that will refuel you for the rest of the day. You just need to feel what you're in. It'll help you get through it quicker and sustain you in it. Blocking what you're feeling will be burnout. Meditation, everybody knows about meditation now and the benefits of it, so I won't go into too long. But if you struggle with meditation, one that I found useful, because I struggle with it, I have a very whirly hamster brain. So the benefit, there's one called 21-Day Meditation. It's done by Deepak Chopra and Oprah. You'll find the app online. And it's a guided meditation, and it takes you to 20 minutes every day. And the first 10 minutes is their thoughts, and then a 10-minute meditation they talk you through. It's very simple. It's very easy.
Chirp in here, Brian. We're going to share all of these with people as they after the webinar, so there's no need to take notes or worry about that. All of these references will be shared.
Perfect. Thanks, Julian. Actually, that 21-day meditation is they are offering a free meditation at the moment. It runs over 21 days. You can start it from any time, and it's about hope in uncertain times. And I can't recommend it highly enough. It's very uplifting. If you're living on your own, I know that may sound hippie, but it's a living thing. Hug that tree. Who cares who sees you? It's a living thing. Living on your own at the moment is particularly difficult. Manage Zoom times. For me, Zoom times personally are a little bit stressful. I find them a little stressful as I'm getting used to them, because I find they're intimate, but they're not intimate, and my head can't quite make out what they are yet. So at the end of them, I'm a little bit depleted, a little bit. So what I'm doing is I'm managing them, and I'm building up kind of my Zoom muscle. Now you may be the opposite, and you may love seeing the faces and come off a Zoom call feeling refreshed. So just give a sense check of what they're doing for you and schedule them accordingly. Either ramp them up or manage them down, but within your work capacity, whatever works for you, but know what it's doing for you and schedule it accordingly. I talked about the why, the Simon Sinek why. Within to the May the 5th, you almost need a mini why for the 5th, because the 5th is like another project deadline we've all got going. What happens after the 5th? Work out your mini why within these 3 weeks. And is the mini why something like, I'm just going to look after the family. I'm going to do my job as well as I can. I'm going to look after X, Y, and Z colleague because I know they're struggling. Whatever it is, work out a specific why for just these 3 weeks too. Daily gratitude practice. It's said a lot. It mightn't be everybody's cup of tea, but again, the research supports gratitude. There's a fantastic article in Forbes magazine, which again pulls together all the desk research around gratitude. It improves psychological well-being. It improves sleep. It creates greater empathy, and it reduces anger and aggression, and it reduces the likelihood of that displaced emotion we talked about earlier. You can do it whatever way works for you. Typical ways are build it into the journaling at the end, list 3 things that you like, or replay your day and pick out certain moments like, I love that chicken curry I had today. It was really nice. That walk with my son was really good. We got to talk, which we never usually do, whatever. See news intakes as a meeting and schedule it. So if, one positive I think that's already coming from this is that we now know that information overload is not good for us. And we're beginning to manage our news information much snappier and much quicker. I know personally, I look at the journal.ie, and they do 9 at 9 in the morning, and then they do at the end of the day, things you need to know about today. So I schedule that into my Outlook calendar, 9 and 9:30 at night, whatever. And they're my 2 bursts, and that's it. And I would recommend finding your own way of, everybody's begun to do that, but if you haven't, find your own way of managing that intake. Reduce the addiction. Trauma has an addictive quality. Build in giving out time. If you're not sad at some stage, if you're not whinging or angry at some stage, you're not human. You need to feel it to move through it quickly. Build it in. If you're that type of person, build it into your schedule and go, okay, at 3 o'clock, I'm going to 15 minutes where I give out about everything, or I'm a pessimist. And do it with a loved one. You can do it with your peers, your team, if you have that relationship with them as well. But do it, do the 15 minutes, then get on with it. But build in some mechanism in your day that allows you feel the elements of this that are challenging to all of us, and all of us feel it. See mental health management as a project. Plan it, project it, project plan it. So build it in what refuels you, what keeps you calm, Notice it through your journaling if you wish, and then build it into your day. Be that the walk, be that the time with the kids, be that the time alone, whatever it is. Okay, so that I hope provides you. Oh, yeah. When I got excited there, let me put my earphones back in.
Put your screen back down.
Yeah, my screen back down.
It's got all wonky.
Are we there?
Yeah.
Okay, so supporting your team. So that's you as an individual. Look after yourself first. Know you're in as healthy as you can be to move in to the next phase, which is being of service to your team. And that's whether you are the leader or peer. They're equal now. Leader and peer are the same thing now. It's a collaborative place we moved into. The language needs to change in our communication. So the language needs to be more about, less about one-upmanship. Watch your eyes. Less of the eyes, less of the competitiveness. But competitiveness may have got you into this position. You need to move into more we talk. What do we think about this? No lengthy commiserating about what we're going through. People know it's difficult. People know it's a challenge. Touch on it lightly. Wear it lightly in work situations and move on. Questions to ask yourself. How well are my team? How can I help improve it and improve the team? How well are my team serving our customers online or by phone or face-to-face, if the case may be? Does the process that we're doing need adapting or changing to fit the current context that we're in? How well am I doing with the team? What help do I need to help the team? What mentors do I have? What people do I go to say, listen, I have a doubt here. I don't have an answer to this. Can you help me formulate something? Let's work on an answer together. Questions to ask your team are much the same. How are you doing? How can I help? What do I need? What do you need from me? Is this project something you can deliver at the moment, or do you think somebody else in the team is better placed to do it? Would you like to take on more work? Do you feel you can? What are your thoughts on what is needed? Is the activity I've introduced recently helpful to you? Is it working? So in essence, you're moving from directive to an adaptive type leader. And really one thing, and it came through from chats with Julian and myself, the one thing is really, you've got to start with a blank slate with the team, be that peer or leader. The stars of the team, may now struggle, and the whinger may surprise you. So it is time to just let all the past go. Under stress, backbones are discovered that were never there before. People may want to step up that didn't. So you need to review, listen more to your team and go, actually, Joe or Jane in the back, they're really up for it at the moment. Let's give them more that can do it.
That whinger line was my line, Brian. That wasn't your line.
That was your line. I'm plagiarizing Julie, and it's a good one. Now, revisit or introduce more effective management practices. So what works best in this situation? So my master's, as Julian mentioned, was around burnout and what causes burnout in teams. And I did a huge amount of literary research on it. And because I did an MSc, so you had to kind of hone in on your topic. And also I did qualitative and quantitative research with Ulster Bank Private Banking, their team, Ronan Moran at the time and his team, and in the Abbey Theatre. And from those research mechanisms, these came out as clear management practices that support teams in reducing burnout potential or trauma or anxiety. So we'll go through them quickly, and they're management practices, again, that you can enact as a peer or a leader. Display the right balance of interest and curiosity about the team. So at the moment, and it's about the balance. Teams did not like if their boss knew too much about them. Basically, know a name of a partner or a child, that's probably enough. So how is Mary doing? How are you doing as a family? How are things going in the house? What are you doing to get your mind off this? That's probably enough. You don't go into it too much and then get into the work thing. So get the balance right, know enough, and then go straight into the work piece. Be visible in the role with their teams and customers. So visibility at the moment is predominantly by Zoom or by phone. Make sure that people do not see your phone calls and Zoom calls as a point of stress. Calls out of the blue to team members going, how are you doing? Just thought I'd give you a call after that, just check in with you. everything all right with you. They are gold dust if they come from an authentic space at the moment, and they won't be forgotten. And they will build up your credibility as an authentic leader that people want to follow. Do not play the role status card of being the manager. That now, if you ever did that, and that's always questionable, but that is now out of the cards. You don't have the answers. So you can't play the role of the manager. You don't have the answers. So now it's like, what do we think about this? What answers should we come up with here? What do you think we should do? Talk more about customers than targets. In fact, I would change that a little bit in this situation to talk more about teams than customers than targets. And show mutual respect. That's a no-brainer. I can't see the box under the video one there as well, but I'll come back to it. Build trust and be trusting. The model for trust is have the right attitude, which is basically everybody's trying to do their best. You start from that point of view. Then ask the right questions. Make sure you're asking questions that show you have a sense of what their needs are and that you're creating common bonds between them. And then show your vulnerability, show who you really are. As in, I don't really know what to do here. Any thoughts? Strive to develop the capability and knowledge of your teammates. And that would be lined to the second last one at the bottom then. When employees are out of their comfort zone, act in a way that they feel supported. So those two, people who adored their bosses, the bosses they loved were the ones who pushed them out of their comfort zone and gave them a project, but supported them. And this is something you can still do at this time. There may be people going, I cannot wait to get into something real. Give me something. And they go, okay, I'll play to your strengths. This is what you can do. Let's do this. And I'll check in with you on the Tuesday. So you can still stretch people. Just check they're up for it. Be authentic and open, now more than ever, but get the balance right. Display good emotional intelligence and be intuitive to what role will best suit people. And that's actually linked to the one at the top. Play to people's strengths. Just reassess what their strengths may be. Do a strength recheck. If you had done a strength analysis on your team or your peers, just do it again. It may have changed. Use mainly positive language. So do an audit at the end of every week and just review the language you've used. Was it mainly positive or mainly negative? And tweak accordingly. Just stay aware of the language you're using. Words are very important at the moment. Be clear in your communication, direct, and keep it regular and a mix of formal and informal. Standard good communication practices. Be consistent as you can be at the moment. Be kind to yourself within it when you're not, but be consistent as you can be. Coach by doing and leading by example. The kids are driving me nuts, but look, I got this over the line. Don't overpraise yourself, but just show you got on with it. And recognize and reward success. Still do that. And that probably is even more important to do at the moment when people are going and looking for reassurance going, does my boss even know I exist? Do I need to send those, as Julian was saying to me earlier, do I need to send 20 emails to let them know I'm alive? They know you're alive, but just help your team know that by continuing to recognize and reward them. Ask them what success looks like at the moment. It'll tell you where they're at. What do you think success looks like? What should we reward now? Define it for me. And that's a series of tested, researched. Again, use what you want, pick what you want, ignore whatever feels or resonates right for you, take. Finally, then, the last part of it is supporting your customers. So really the 4 keys in supporting the anxious customer, it's not rocket science. You'll know it if you've been in this business a long time. But what they need is compassion. And within the CX Academy, that would equate to the empathy base that they have within their online course. But compassion around, if the dynamic emotion does appear, if they do lose the plot, if they are having difficulty making decisions, which they're going to, if they are slower on understanding stuff, it is completely understandable at the moment. And you have to treat them like you would treat your sister or brother who is struggling on their own or with their family, or your father or mother who's on their own. You have to bring that degree of compassion to it in the short term at least, because your customers will remember this and they will buy more from you in the long term because of it. They will trust you more in the long term because of it as well. Communication.
So important, Brian, isn't it? That, I mean, at this time, and when we come out of the other end of this, our actions at this time are going to be so important and going to speak volumes about our company. in the trust, in the empathy area, in all of these kind of real fundamental areas of CX.
They really are, and they're going to say as much about us as a human being as well. We're going to be tested about what really we are. If we are that, you know, if we're talking about customer journeys as platitudes and we've got, you know, done well because we were able to fake it, we're going to be showing up, you know. So this is a time to really, you know, true colors come out, and they'll come out with the customers and the customers' journeys, and they'll go, that's what that company is really about. They said they were about that. And actually, you know what, they are. And that in the long term can only be a win. Communication, we touched on. Listening, you need to build in longer times for customer calls, customer online, customer face-to-face. It is going to be slower. There is going to be more repetition needed. You know, in the medicine field, which I've worked in, you know, doctors will advise you that, you know, the research shows 10 to 15% of a cancer diagnosis is actually taken in by a patient. So it's not that extreme, but you're looking at about 30%. So build in those in your process. Choice, give customers choice. You know, do you want this by paper? Do you want the response by follow-up by phone, by email? You know, give customers choice where you can. Work out escalation points as well, and give them as much control as possible. And that control, Harvard did a very interesting case study where they researched online journeys, UX journeys that provided the option for human support. And basically where human support was added in quite a number of touch points in the UX journey, the digital journey, the customer was much more relaxed, much less anxious, and much more comfortable with the decision that they had made to purchase. What was interesting was that they were more relaxed, even if they never used the human support. Just the fact that that choice was available to them gave them a sense of control, which reduced the anxiety. So compassion, communication, choice, control. And then on the digital and phone experience, really it's to review it now. It's to review your UX and CX experience and just look at, within the context of the trauma and the anxious states that people are in, review anything that's potentially an emotional trigger. So review the decision points in the customer journeys, and just ensure that at those points the process is simplified. There is escalation points, there is human contact points if needed. So review the whole thing again and cut back, simplify, increase the amount of times within a journey that a customer can go back to recheck information. So review the whole thing based on the context we're working in. Reach out. There is an opportunity to do customer research, but I would, you know, only do it authentically. You can do research in the basis of, you purchase something with it. Did we help you? Did we really help you? Did you find a supportive here? Is there anything you change? So the questions I asked the team earlier, are questions you could ask the customers, you know, how are you doing? What can we do for you? Is there something else you need from us? Those kind of things. You need very good, empathetic people doing this research as well if you do it. But there is, if it's done correctly, this program could gain a lot of benefit in what you hear from customers that can help your brand, your customers, your team in the long run as well. Also reach out to UX designers. You will need to review the UX design. There are some fantastic UX designers out there. I've worked with some of them. There are a lot of people who are now sitting at home who are on pause. Very talented people, very talented researchers, very talented UX designers. If you have that budget, if there is, and you can do it, reach out to them. You're being of service and doing that themselves, and you're helping enhance the journeys you're giving people. The final thing I'd say on this is that the customer experience and the UX, it is still, when you look at the research on it, it is the emotion business. And you do need to review the journeys you're giving people to see what emotion they end up. What is the end state? Start with the end state in mind. And the end state the customers need to feel at the moment is reassurance and safe. I feel reassured there. I feel safer. So at the end of the experience they've had with you is the customer coming off the phone, online, or face-to-face and going, actually, I feel a little better. I feel a bit supported there. That's a worry off my mind. And that is the end state, to go back and review every element of the journey that you're bringing customers on and sense check it against that. And those that are not doing that, they won't last the course. So review it, reach out, and then resonate and the emotion you're looking for. And the metric is reassurance. In fact, I'll go so much as to say, you know, you have the net promoter index, you know, will this person recommend me or not? That is now secondary to, you know, net reassurance index. Did this company make me feel better at the moment? Did they actually get it sorted in a way that made me feel safer? Okay, finally then, I worked with a client, and you know, normally you have about 10% of customers that will go to a very heightened state of being, very aggressive, assertive. But this company was dealing with clients because of the nature of the service, where they were having a much higher percent of customers that were reaching this grenade point, and about 30%. So working together with them, we came up with a model. I just thought I'd share it with you, maybe of use to you, because really, if a customer goes to a point, or a teammate goes to a point where it's now not appropriate, they've gone to that 8 and they're getting verbally abusive, it is the displaced emotion, but that is not correct. You, as a leader of your team or a teammate, you need to put in place a mechanism where every one of your colleagues is allowed to end that interaction. So the model I came up with the client was last and last resort, making the customer relationships last. So in a normal mode where the customer is maybe 4 out of 10, you would do the usual listen, apologize, solve, and then thank the customer. But when they've gone to grenade mode, it is a slightly different, and we called it the last resort. And basically, it's remain calm. No, it's not personal. It's displaced emotion directed at you. It's not right, but it's not personal. Don't engage in the energy that they're giving out. Educate the customer. So say you're in Super Value or Tesco's and the customer blows up about the bill, and you're going, well, actually, I can talk you through that bill item by item if needs be, or I can get my manager to look through the bill with you as well. So educate whatever the action is. Then silent observation, which is a difficult one to obtain, but just sit and let them vent for a period of time that you agree on. 2 minutes, a minute, 2 minutes. If they don't come out of it and hear their own voice and realize, God, I sound mad here, I need to shut up. If they don't reach that self-realization, repeat the piece you've educated and then terminate it. Either by bringing in your manager, something you've agreed, or a termination script. And agree that as a team. So I would work with your team and say, listen, if there are experiences of this, what do we do as a team? How do we approach this? And agree your own last resort that would ever be. And just one last thing, it came to my mind on the resort piece. If you have telephone scripts or service scripts or sales scripts at the moment, include them in your reviews. Review what words you're saying to customers and review them in the context of what I said earlier. Are they simple? Are they giving more time to the customer to speak, and so on? And that is it. I hope that's of use to you. So basically the recap is accept the context and work from there. Accept what we're in, because you'll move through it quickly. Accept the good and the bad in it. Feel it quickly, and you can move on. The order of priority is you. You need to look after yourself. It is the oxygen mask and the airplane analogy. You have to look after yourself, then look after your team, then look after your customers. That's the order. You have to adapt your management and communication styles to fit the context that we're in, that we talked about. And I would recommend, it's your own call obviously, but I would recommend review your CX and UX journeys to support the current context under the elements that I looked at, I talked about. And actually with a focus on, is this reassuring to customers? Yes, no. Keep them, drop them based on that. And that's me, Julian.
Brilliant, Brian. That was just wonderful. Wisdom, kindness, everything coming through there, and real actionable stuff and real takeaways. Thank you. I can think of, apart from the resort analogy, I can think of a different kind of resort I'd like to be in right now, to be honest with you.
I know.
It'd be a lot nearer the beach.
Oh, I know. It'd be lovely.
Yeah.
Little drink in the hand. Yeah, lovely.
So look, move on to the next slide there, and people can get you. And they can contact you. We're going to send out all the information linking you into it. And if people need some wisdom and they need somebody to come in and do some consultancy work for them, I know you're around, you're available. If you go on to the next slide then, Brian, we are, as I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with the CX Academy, but basically what we do, we have two programs at the moment. One is a professional certificate program and the other is a professional diploma program, which is university accredited by Glasgow Caledonian University. We use a unique CX framework, which all the things that Brian touched upon regarding trust, empathy, personalization, resolution of issues. We work through that, and we allow you to embed a program of CX excellence in your own organization. It's a good time to learn right now if you can manage it. Some people can manage it, other people can't manage it. So it really doesn't matter, but if you can manage it, take the opportunity now to maybe upskill and learn. So Anna, my colleague, is going to drop you a note after the webinar, maybe this afternoon or tomorrow. And if you need any further information about any of the courses, if you need to get in touch with Brian, please do so. I know Brian would be delighted to help. So there's been a couple of questions coming in, and I just want to have a quick look, Brian. If you just bear with me, we'll get to some of the questions now. The question from Siobhan was, well done, Brian, fantastic presentation. How do you think customer expectations will change as a result of what is happening at the moment?
Oh, that's a big question. How will they change? I don't know is the honest answer. I think from what I've seen even the last couple of weeks, I think people have become definitely more selective in how they're going to choose information to come with them. I feel that people realize that time is, and where you put your time is really important. And so people will be much more selective in what they choose to spend their time on. And I think that will impact on customer journeys, and customer journeys will need to reflect even better experiences as it goes on, actually. Is this worth my time? The journeys will need to prove that they are worth their time. Yeah.
Brian, another one. For those that find, this is from Patrick, for those that find journaling difficult, what about private attempts at poetry?
Yeah, whatever floats your boat. Yeah, of course, it would be the same thing. If that's your way of expressing what's going on in your head and getting it out of your system and out of your body, go for it. Yeah. And send it to us.
There was one I was just, I know somebody sent in a question before the webinar, and it was about, do you have any mental exercises to help dealing with difficult customer interactions? And we actually do on the diploma course. We have a whole section on psychology and about how psychology of emotions works. And the little exercise was 3 steps, very simple. 1, imagine the last difficult interaction you had with a customer or even a work colleague. Step 2, take 5 minutes to write down all the negative emotions that you felt at the time. And step 3, now try to create a different set of positive emotions as an alternative perspective of the event. So just turning a negative situation into a positive one in your own time and trying to understand that from a self-awareness perspective. I don't know if you agree with that, Brian.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the more you can, I think rehearsal at the moment is important because you don't want displaced emotions. So if you can rehearse things, the better. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Well, look, thank you all so much for joining us. If you want to ask Brian any questions or ask us any questions, please just let us know and send emails into support@thecxacademy.org. We'll be in touch soon. And I hope that everybody is keeping safe, everybody is keeping well. And just to thank Brian again so much for giving us those words of wisdom. And we'll check in with you again soon. We'll be having regular masterclasses as these weeks go on. So thank you again, and I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you got something valuable out of it. Goodbye.
Thanks very much.